Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My wonderful repeat guest is Caroline Blanchard. We are going to be talking about rather a challenging topic today, which is how do you deal with staying sober, especially during the holidays? And Caroline is bravely sharing those tips because this was one of her challenges that she had to face. We did talk about it in our last show that we did with Deborah Drummond, her partner, and we talked about helping new entrepreneurs with structure, their media and their goal setting. And this, came up during the conversation, and I said, please come and share those tips because this is a difficult time of year for a lot of people who are facing the cheer and the glass is clinging all the time, and it can be a very difficult time for people. So somebody who's been through it, who didn't go to AA, who decided to face it on and challenge it herself, how did she do it? What did she do? Where did she find the courage? And what tips are there for, during this festive season when everybody wants to hand you a drink, how to say no where they will accept it. So a brave young lady. Thank you so much, Caroline, but so necessary to have this topic here on this season. Thank you for coming back on air with us.
Well, thank you for having me, Sarah. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It is an uncomfortable topic. It's actually the first time I'm doing, a full interview on that. But I do think just like how you presented it, that, it can help people on how to get through this time. And I think that's really why I'm sharing today, because it's still a subject that has so much stigma around it and so much taboo. And but hey, if it can help one person, well, it's all going to be worth it.
100%, because that one person domino effect, right? And we learn best from people who have gone through it. And, we're talking about the Christmas season right now where, the alcohol is free flowing all, for every party you go to, every event you go to. But, these tips, of course, are for all year round. But, this is a very difficult time. And, maybe tell us a little bit of the background. I've certainly drank a lot in my youth. I lived in South Africa. The wine was flowing. I drank a great deal, and that was, the era. 70s, 80s, 90s, it was a drink in your hand all the time. And, we see it's still a lot with people today where they can knock it back. But at some point, you realize, hang on. Am I becoming dependent on this drink? Has it become a crutch for me? Is it something I can do without or I need? And it kind of taps you on the shoulder, doesn't it?
It does. And actually, I grew up with a mother who didn't drink at all. But I grew up in an Italian neighborhood. And so at 7, they would serve wine with 7-Up. So it was totally socially acceptable. And it was just totally, something that everyone did. And there was nothing wrong to it. And yes, every single supper and parties, there was always alcohol. Like it was a cultural thing. And I'm not just talking about the Italians. Even in my culture, the French culture was the exact same culture. I remember when I was in my 30s telling someone, like, I can't imagine going for a supper without a bottle of wine. Right there, that was a clue, That should have been a clue that I had a drinking problem because I could not picture myself, like I was saying. I can't understand people who are having supper together and there's no wine. I could not see the enjoyment or the points to that. But I think that a lot of that was also cultural. And, it's a very fine line into drinking a lot, being a social drinker and being an alcoholic. And unfortunately, we never look at the last option because we always think, we're in control.
Yes.
It's always like, well, maybe for you it's that, but I'm in control. You know, it's the same thing as the person who wants to drive after a few drinks. They're always okay. There's, you know, the person who is consuming is always thinking that they're okay and in control. But I think you have to ask yourself at some point, is it controlling you or you are in control? Is your life manageable with the alcohol in it? And when the answer starts being no, that's when you know that, you know, you have to slow down. And I started drinking, actually, I was quite young. The first time I got drunk actually was, I was 11, and it was at my aunt's wedding. You know, the bottles of wine were on the table and it was just like free flowing.
Right.
And my older siblings were giving me some, just, they're all 5, 6, 7 years older than me. So they just gave me some because they thought it was so cute. And I walked out of there, I was not in a good shape. So that was my first encounter, really. And then it went, I think that right there, because I have an addictive personality, but that I just found out like years later, or I admitted it years later. It came very fast with my friends and everything around 12, you know, stealing wine out of our parents' cupboards and drinking it in parks. And it was just something to do, and it was fun, and it was numbing, and it was, you know, it was cool.
You said a big word there, numbing. Right now, why do people turn to drugs? Why do people turn to alcohol? Because they're generally trying to numb something. If, you know, they don't want to feel the way they're feeling, or they're trying to escape a feeling, or, you know, just running away from something, right? So a lot of people turn to whatever substance to kind of numb the pain or numb the discontent with life. And as we talked about in our last show, you know, there is no escaping the journey of life. You know, the process is going through. You've got to go through it. And however much you want to numb it, you know, eventually it's going to wake you right up and say, I don't care how much you're numbing it, you still got to go through it. But now you've just made it more difficult for yourself.
Yes. And you know what? I read that not so long ago, and I thought, wow, this is beautiful. It says, everywhere you go, you'll be there.
Right.
So whenever
you can't escape you.
I mean, it's so simple.
Yeah.
And of course, now that I say it, everyone will be like, well, I know that. But, you know, I heard that at different phase in my life. And now I'm really understanding what it means, is that you can't escape yourself. You can't numb. You can't ignore. And, you know, some people will have big traumas that they can attach the start of their use to. But some people, it's also smaller things. And it's also like fitting in, or just having an addictive personality in itself as well. It can be.
Yeah.
Because you know what, alcoholism, well, there's different school of thoughts, but some say it's genetic. So if you are aware that you have an addictive personality, you just have to be more careful into how you consume. And that is anything, by the way.
Right. Yes. Chocoholic, coffeeholic, you know, sexaholic, you know, you've got lots of aholics there.
It's funny that you say these words, and we use these words almost as a joke, like when we'll be like, oh man, I'm a shopaholic.
Yeah.
But for some people, it's real issues that they're dealing with, you know, coffeeholic or whatever. I did a therapy at some point, and one person, she was addicted to coffee, and she was to the point of like 50 coffees a day, and it really ruined her life.
Oh, I was at 13 at one point, and that was already had me wired. So 50, I can't imagine.
Well, your nervous system and everything.
Yes.
So we don't understand when we're not addicted to something. That's the only thing I can say, is we don't understand. When I went to rehab, there was a girl with me there. We were doing the same program, and it was for weed. I don't like weed. And I was looking at her like, really? How can you be? That doesn't make sense. It's so easy to not smoke, you know, because it wasn't my issue.
Right.
So you can't look at someone and decide, well, that's a smaller issue and that's a bigger issue. whether it be, a harsh drug, alcohol, a soft drug, it all depends on what it does to your life and how you're managing it. And for me, it's like from 12 on, I was always a party girl. I was always a girl closing all the parties, and I was the fun one, the cool one, the daredevil. It was extremely fun, but alcohol and drugs were giving me a big part of my self-confidence, because it was really allowing me to stop feeling what was stopping me. When we say numbing, it's like the pain that was there, or the black hole. When I filled it with those substances, it felt so much better. Like I felt like I was living and I could breathe easily.
And you didn't have to deal with anything.
No, but the next morning it's always harder. But you start your day over again, and when you know that there's a drink coming, you're like, okay, I'm going to do it, and then at the end of the day I will have my drink. And the funny thing with me is that I was a super high functioning alcoholic. I'm a mom of 3. I have 3 dogs. I had 2 cats back then. I was married. My couple was going well. I was volunteering at my kids' school. I was volunteering at my daughter's soccer. I was the manager at my son's hockey team. Like, on the outside, I really had it together. And my job was a really high responsibility job as well. And I was like, when I stopped that job, they hired 3 people to replace me. So I was super productive, and I was having success. So when people see that, they don't see a problem.
No. Except for in itself, there is a red flag there. Overachiever. Right. So maybe it wasn't the alcohol, but you were addicted to, volunteering for everything, managing everything, overachieving. Right. So if it wasn't, you couldn't have the glass of wine in hand, you're going to overachieve. So it always eases its way out through something else, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I was drinking when I was doing all of that. And I was drinking red wine. So that too is so socially acceptable, but I was having some every day. My kids never saw me like drunk or, my kids didn't understand when everything exploded that there was a problem. I had to explain that it's not normal to drink every single day. But because they didn't see any immediate impact, they didn't understand.
Right.
And a lot of people, that's what it is. But when you drink your bottle of wine every night and then you start opening the second bottle, there's an issue.
Yes.
And I knew I had an issue, and I would talk to people close to me, and I would say, you know what, I have a drinking problem. But one of the big thing as well is that usually you surround yourself with people that are like you. So saying that to my close circle, it was all like, no, you don't have a drinking problem. You're fine. Like, you're just drinking wine.
Yeah.
So, but I was getting at a space where when I was sober, I was depressed and anxious, and, I wasn't feeling good anymore. And then I couldn't sleep anymore. I started asking the doctor, can I have sleeping pills? She's like, sure. So then that circle started. And then that was even better, because I could drink, take my pill, and fall right asleep until the next morning. Even if it was 5 hours of sleep, it was a solid one. So I would get up. But I mean, all of this started really messing with me. And I remember at some point calling a rehab center and saying, I need help. And then they put you through, they have to assess you. So the lady called me to assess me. It took about a month for her to call me. And then she assessed me, and I was very logical and intelligent in my discussion. I was like, I am drinking too much, and it's taking away from my health, and I have dark ideas now when I go to bed. Like, I want to end it all sometimes. But because I was explaining it so logically, I wasn't seen as a threat, But when I was intoxicated, I was a threat to myself. So long story short, one day I was at work and my dad passed away. And it was 2 days before his birthday, and I was feeling like really sad. Um, and I honestly don't know what happened that day. In my brain, I don't know how I computed that, but I decided to go home. I called the pharmacy and I said, I just lost my prescription of sleeping pills. Can I have more? And they doubled it like this. They gave me, like 60, like that. And I stopped at the liquor store and I just got home and I just wanted to numb the anxiety that I was feeling that day and the pain. I did not want to end anything because I adore my kids. Plus, if that would have been my plan, I would have planned everything.
Right.
Would have been there.
Yes. Little notes, the video, the whole tutti frutti. Yes.
Yes. So I'm kind of making a joke out of it, but it's true that I would have done that. Oops, sorry. So I went home and I started just taking like one sleeping pill, and I was drinking my vodka orange juice. And soon enough, there was no more orange juice in the vodka.
You're right. Yes.
And soon enough, I took all of the sleeping pills. And I waited that my kids were home from school and that my husband was home from work before passing out. And I don't even understand how I could wait this long. But for me, it was just like when they were all in the house, safe, I lost consciousness, and they brought me to ICU because, I took enough to kill a horse.
Right. How the hell did you survive that? Did they have to pump your stomach?
They couldn't, because at this point it was too much in me. So it was like they were giving me a lot of IV to roll my, like turn over my blood as fast as they could, and I did take some gross stuff. But yeah, I could have stayed there. Because because it is what it is. But it wasn't a suicide attempt. It was just a
call for help, really.
But I don't even think so. I just think that it got out of hand and I took too much.
But I also think subliminally a call for help. You'd already asked for help and been turned down. Yeah. And then in the back of the mind is, what do I need to do? Your rationale isn't there, right? And it's like, if your rationale was there, you wouldn't, I'm not going to take all these pills. What if they don't find me in time or anything else? But it is a subliminal call for help because nobody was taking you seriously. And we know for a fact that there are a lot of high-powered people, very articulate, intelligent people who are dealing with the nemesis of drugs or alcoholism, especially alcoholism. And, they could be judges, most certainly high-powered cops, lawyers, doctors. We know that there's, so this stigma that you sound to put together to have this problem is an issue that we need to address, because what do you want somebody just to be slurring on the other end and not being articulate, and now you take them seriously? That doesn't make sense.
You're absolutely right. And you know what I was thinking, even I was just like, I'm a smart woman, I'm a professional, I'm successful, and I can't even get help.
Right.
Imagine the person on the street who's at their wit's end.
Yes.
We have a system, there's something missing in our system, and I'm not going to go into that discussion because I'm not going to bash anyone. Everyone's doing their best. But I'm just saying, imagine if it was so hard to get help.
Yes.
How much is like what it is for someone who's really like on the street and at the end.
And don't even have a phone number to call, then and in society, in many ways, because I've done a great deal of shows on homelessness, is throwaway people. Oh, they're just drug addicts. They're just this, that. No, they're people that are calling for help. There are people that need to be guided forward. They've become hopeless. They're not helpless, they're hopeless, because they just don't feel there's anything to live for anymore. They've really bottomed out. And this is when we need to step forth even more and show care. But again, going back to people who are very articulate to this thing about you're not a drunk enough or something. I don't know. I mean, look at the Rat Pack, Dean Martin, always a drink in his hand, and all of the others. Drink was smoking. It was a social thing. Everybody did it, but it didn't mean that everybody could cope with it, or that it didn't catch up with them somewhere along the line, because your body at some point is going to rebel, and your psyche, if it's calling for help and calling for you to go through a process, calling for you to deal with an issue, and all you're doing is suppressing all the time, it's going to find its way forward with the old cosmic 2x4 and flatten you, so that, now, I'm sorry, you have to pay attention to it. And that was your cosmic 2x4.
Yeah, it was a big one.
Yeah.
It did hit hard. So that was in February, and I finally got into rehab in May. So it still took 3 months.
Wow.
And I can't say that happened and automatically I was just like, oh my gosh,
right.
That was my wake-up call. No, because I was insulted that my husband took me to the hospital. And I was insulted that, there was some doctors and nurses who knew. And when I got back home the second day, I went to buy wine. So it's not like it gave me a wake-up call. Mm-hmm. I was just like, that was a very stupid thing that I did. Mm-hmm. Now I just need to control that better, So anyway.
Still in denial.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, it's extremely hard to attach those kind of titles to yourself. Mm-hmm. So in May, I went to rehab, and I went for a 6-week program. That was very interesting. It was a day program because I didn't want to leave the house, for a period of time. So I would go there every day from 9 to 4. The kids were in school. I was in my program. And that too was such an experience because, again, in those rehab programs, you imagine it's going to be the alcoholic on the street, the homeless person.
Yes.
And it's not. It's not. Like, people drove there with their Ferrari. And, we had really there was one person on welfare. There was one person who was a multimillionaire. There was like one actress. There was me. There was a cardiologist. Like, it was all different. There's no one person. And
I was stereotyping, right? Is just throw it out window.
Yeah. Well, even the cardiologist, even me in that position, I was like, really? You?
Yeah.
Oh, he's like, yeah. But anyway, so I went through the program, and then I continued, and I also realized that those kind of really structured programs for me were not what I wanted to continue with. Mm-hmm. So I did the 6 weeks. I did an extra 2 months once a week, and then I stopped, and I decided to, really, I had made a promise that I was not using anymore, and I started working out a lot. So I started training for a triathlon. I hated biking, swimming, running. I just registered for an Olympic triathlon, and I was just like, I'm doing this. So basically I was working out 6 days a week. And I took a break from work because I also identified that there was a lot of pressure that I could not handle. Mm. I could handle it when I was drinking. Not drinking, I couldn't.
Right.
So I started reevaluating my life. Like, what really is success to me, and what really is happiness to me. And that's when I started focusing on different things. Mm-hmm. And then, I have to say, the first 16 months that I was sober, I never came out and said, I have a drinking problem, or I'm an alcoholic. I just stopped drinking, and I stayed quiet about it. And then when we would go to parties, I would like really pump myself into like, okay, don't stay too long, blah, 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 blah. And then I would tell people, because everyone was offering me, and I was just like, oh, I'm training and I can't, or I'm on antibiotics, or if they thought I was pregnant, I was letting them think I was pregnant.
Yes.
But that was not healthy either. And then, but it was hard also because my close friends and family did not want to accept my title. They were just like, oh, are you, seeking attention now? So you're finding yourself a title. So it was difficult.
So no support.
No. And my husband kept drinking. So that was extremely hard for me as well.
In front of you?
Well, in the house. And believe me, I can be upstairs, and if there's a beer open downstairs, I smell it. That's when...
Yes. But I mean, he obviously wasn't grasping the situation.
No.
You know, like it's anybody that's going through that process of coming out of an addictive nature and having to go through the process into being able to be comfortable around alcohol without, you know, smelling it or needing it. People like, you have to be sensitive. Right now, you know, we were talking about Christmas, and you're going to go to parties where people are going to drink, right? And it's like, if you can't cope with the smell of alcohol, decline the party this year. Just say, I'm sorry. Right now, I can't. I love you. I'm with you in spirit, but I can't. Some people might even go as far to say, okay, this is a non-alcoholic Christmas party, right? Because it won't do anybody any harm for everybody to find their own natural cheer instead of having to find it in a bottle. But it's okay for you to say, I have to abstain. But if you are going through this in your own household, you need to have people in the household understand the sensitivity of it and not put temptation in the way or not dismiss what you're going through.
Yeah, well, I had to deal with that. And I don't think that any, you know, it's all people who love me. So I don't think they did it maliciously. But it's something that I had to deal with. But also that brought me to, after 16 months, I relapsed. You know, I met a friend that I hadn't seen for 20 years. And he was like, well, have a glass of wine. And he didn't get it because he knew the heroin 20 years ago. And at some point I was just like, I didn't drink for 16 months. I'm good. I got this.
Yes.
So I took 2 or 3 glasses of wine, whatever a bottle shared by 2 is. But when that bottle was done, I was just like, let's order another one. And then I'm like, no, I need to drive home. And then it just kicked in. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm starting back to day 1.
Right.
And I was so disappointed in myself. And so I came home, and that weekend I had a pity party. I'm not gonna lie, I bought all my favorite drinks and I went in my room, and from 12 to 12, I was in my room alone drinking, and I was just enjoying myself. And I was just like, this is my last time. And it was my last time. So that was October 13, 2013. But after that though, what I did is that I really came out and I accepted the title. Right. And I started, you know, saying it. It was not, I'm not on antibiotics. I'm not on what, I have a drinking problem and I cannot drink anymore. Yeah. I chose not to drink anymore. I'm an alcoholic, and alcoholic took so long for me to be able to say it, because it's just a harsh, ugly word. Yes. You know, and, but once I came to the point of accepting the title, and give the title that you want. Right. But once I accepted the title, that's when my real sobriety started. And you know, when I said I had a slip, the real term of slip is when sobriety loses its priority. That's a slip. So you always have to think before, you know, grabbing a drink. Is it worth? Yes. Is this a priority right now? Right. Or when you have your top priority listed, like my kids, my health, this and that, will that drink compensate? Yeah. One of those. And yes, at first, it's a lot of work. You need to think. You need to think always, and it's okay. And I actually made myself a list. I made myself a list of, you know, the people that I did not want to hurt. So basically it was my 3 kids and myself. And I was looking at their name, and I love my son because of blah, blah, this. And I want to be healthy because of this. And this is how I feel when I'm hungover. Right. Like, let's be real. No one feels good. No. No. Show me somebody who feels good after a hangover. Yeah. What did they feel? They go for another drink to get the hair of the dog, right? Yeah. Or you start your day and you're like, is it time to go to bed yet? Yes. No, you need to do the lunches, the supper, this and that. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to survive this day. So make a list of these things. And when you get the urge, look at your list. But, you know, don't be harsh with yourself, and don't put yourself in situations that you can't handle.
Right.
It took me a while to go to a party. And I used to love partying and socializing and suppers and this and that. And in the first 16 months I did it, it was extremely hard because I was not doing it properly. After, when I admitted it to myself and to everyone, I actually came public on Facebook. And I'm not suggesting that to people.
Right, because each their own, right? Yes.
Yeah, I'm extremist. But for me, it was also like a healing phase, because I received hundreds of messages. First of all, it was all like, oh my gosh, Caroline, we never thought you were going through something. Your life seems so perfect.
Yes.
You have it all together. Like all these comments. And then there was a bunch of other comments of like, my parent is an alcoholic. I've been living with that my whole life. And then they would confide in me. Or I know I have a drinking problem and I just don't know how to.
Right.
So that, and all people that I knew, and you know, that I would have never guessed either.
Yes. Yes. I mean, case in point of why we're doing this show. You know, anybody can become an alcoholic when you start making excuses for having to have that drink, right? When the drink is, I've just one more drink. I just need that drink. Oh, no, I don't need it, but I'm just drinking it. You know, I'm in control. And when you start talking to yourself like that, then you know you've got a problem. Maybe it's not alcoholism. Maybe you're on your way to be there. Maybe, you know, you're avoiding something else and going to the drink to numb it. But you know, if you had that rational conversation with somebody else in the mirror, you would call them out on it, right? But it's the excuses. And when you actually do go public with it and say, this is me, and other people say, oh, you know, me too, it becomes a camaraderie of, you understand what each other are going through. And you know, there's a wonderful lady, Nancy Gabriel. She's an army wife, and so they're constantly moving. And she lost her son in a crib death, and had come from an abusive marriage before this one. And all of these things, she, you know, she's very cheerful and exuberant. And so of course the alcohol was her blanket, right? And then finally, you know, she stopped it, but she was open and admitted it. And I'm having a hard day. I'm having a hard day, and the drink wants to come into my hand. And she asks for that support. So if we take away the stigma, right? Addict, alcoholic, somebody suffering from a particular disease or problem, if we took away this opinion of what, you know, oh, a loser. No, every single person has got some form of name above them, that's, you know, of their challenge of what they're going through. And instead we reached out to say, support, you've got this, I'm with you, you know, you're not alone. We would see so many more people actually finding the courage to stand up and say, this is my problem and I want to face it. How? Right?
And a big part of that too is mental health. You know, I know that that's a whole other discussion, but I suffered from depression since I was probably 5. And I was just like, I'm against medication. I self-medicated a lot.
Yes.
You know,
Exactly.
And a lot of people do that. And actually, when you start drinking, attached to emotions. So you get a promotion, a drink. You get a win, a drink. A party, a drink. You're sad, a drink. Stress, drink. When it's attached to emotions, that I think you need to ask yourself, you know, because I know some people who drink normally, but those people, first of all, it's not every weekend, because you can be a weekend alcoholic as well. That's how I started when I was younger. You know, it's like Friday. There's no way Friday you're not taking something. So, but I think that everyone has their own journey, and for me, one of my big part was that I needed to face myself, because, you know, not drinking is one thing. It's hard, takes a lot of willpower, but it's a question of 1 minute after the other. But then facing life sober,
Yes.
that's a whole other ballgame. You know, I was thinking when I did my first 3 months, I was like, yes, I did the worst. And then my first year, I was just like, that's it. Now I'm good. And we also, you know, there's a lot of people that will end up thinking that when they did a certain period of time, they're like, I don't have a problem. I'm good. But starting to face yourself and life without numbing anything, sober, you know, like when you have the first person that will leave you, when you have frustrations, all of these things, it's really like, that's where the work needs to be done. And for me, I really dove into personal development. I did try AA. First of all, I was like, I didn't like the stigma of AA. And second of all, for me, it was just like going in there to listen about it the whole time. First of all, I have too much empathy. So I would feel so bad for them. But also that just hearing, you know, oh, I was always drinking, this, everyone tells their story. I was just like, I was walking out of there wanting a drink.
Yeah, I'd like to just hit on that for a moment because, you know, I remember I have fibromyalgia, and I remember somebody taking me to a fibromyalgia group. And she said, don't say anything, Sarah, just listen. And there's this guy who actually had once been an addict. Now he was a fibromyalgia coach. And everybody's telling about their pain. He goes, oh, I know it's hard. Oh, I know living with the pain. And what he was doing quintessentially was feeding the sorrow, feeding the pain. And eventually it just couldn't hold back any longer. And I said, surely if we look to feeding some positive energy, it will help lift us up out of our pain. It will help us have the right tools to deal with it. He didn't like that at all because his agenda was, I keep these people dependent on me. His new drug was people dependent on him. And, you know, when you've got an association, yes, I'm an alcoholic or I'm a this, you admit it, this is my struggle, but where are the solution based? Where are the good stories? You know, where is the story? I went to a party, I was the life and soul of the party, and I didn't touch a drink. Where are those stories? Because that's what you want to hear, isn't it? Not just like, I'm alcoholic, I'm sober now, it's difficult. You want to hear the other side of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, that was it. I didn't want to hear about, and then I started following a guy on Facebook. He has a group called Racing for Recovery. So he does Ironmans. And in my opinion, he does too much, but he does like one after the other. But he was a big heroin addict. And that's how he stopped. He found a passion into something else. And he's like, yes, I'm addicted to health and fitness. But it's, you know, it's a healthy addiction. So, but
everything needs balance though.
Yes. But I started seeing that there's other ways. And honestly, for me, it's just like self-development is really the heart of it. Because when you start looking at yourself and you start improving upon yourself, it's magical. And then when I started reading people like Gabrielle Bernstein, that she was a recovering alcoholic, and Brene Brown, and I was just like, I found hope into these are women that because I didn't know when I started following them. And when I found out, I was just like, oh my gosh, them? And they're that good and that smart and that inspiring. So you start seeing, you know, life after there's something amazing. And now I can go to suppers without a bottle of wine. And it's actually, food is good.
Yes, you taste the food differently. You're engaged with the conversation differently, right? You know, you pick up, especially as a sensitive, you pick up on the vibe, you know, and know how to kind of accentuate that good feeling, those good vibrations. This, again, when you find out people have got a problem, whether drugs, alcohol, whatever the case is, and everybody's had them up on a pedestal. For some people, oh, what, they're just an alcoholic and they've fallen down the ladder. Like, but they're an alcoholic and they're still able to achieve this and still be able to admit this. Okay, all right. But I feel out of every adversity, every challenge, every process that we have to face in our recovery, the best teachers are those that have gone through it. because you understand the steps, you understand the why, but it's stepping into your meaningful purpose, because now you become a beacon of hope and light for other people because you understand.
Yes. And you know what? It's the only thing I can say is that there's nothing instant.
No,
There's nothing
but is life
instant.
instant? Are we meant to
No,
just have one instant moment and that's it? You
no.
know?
So take your time.
Yeah.
I started enjoying going out dancing, and I don't go out dancing much. But you know, the company I'm with now, they always do a big party at the end of conference. Well, at first I was missing those parties because I didn't feel strong enough to be there.
Yeah.
And then I started going and just standing there and being like, I don't like anyone who's having fun right now, you know? And then the third year, I was just like, okay, the music is good. And so it took a while. So give yourself, you know, time, and give yourself also the permission to leave anywhere where you're uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I did at first, like
relatives included.
yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you know what? They're the hardest.
Yes.
They're the hardest.
Yes.
Because quite often you come from all the same mold, and they will pull you back down and be like, no, you are this. We've known you all our life like this. But give yourself the ultimate permission of leaving anywhere where you're uncomfortable. You can be like, you could invite me to a party, Sarah, and I would be like, oh yeah, amazing, and blah, blah. And I would be so pumped. And there's one thing that will trigger me at that party that I will be like, I have to leave.
Yeah.
And I think that when you say it up front, look, I'm going to go, but I may leave, and don't take it personal. It's not about you.
Yeah.
When I start feeling threatened or not in control, I will leave. Remove yourself from the situation.
Right. And that, I mean, with the alcoholic, or whether you're post-traumatic stress, or whether you're a sensitive, you know, empath, whatever, if you get to a situation where you feel, you know, this is making me feel uncomfortable, I can feel the triggers, I can feel the anxiety coming up, I don't need to rationalize that, I don't need to apologize for that, I just need to adhere to it and do what I need to do before it gets out of control.
Yeah. And I would say always have your exit plan in anything. You know, you can have it in your daily life. Like, okay, if this is starting to happen and I'm spiraling down this way, I'm going to call this one. And you know that if I call you, pick up the phone. You're my exit strategy. If I go to your party, I will tell you. You always plan before. So yes, you have to be more careful at first. But I mean, life sober can be harder at first, because you do see and feel life, all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I swear I would never go back to drinking, because even if today you would tell me, like, Carolyn, you can handle it and you're done, you know, you're cured, I wouldn't go back to it, because it's so much better now. You know, I feel so much healthier. I look younger now at 47 than I did at 38 when I stopped. I was burning myself out, and not only physically, emotionally, you know, inside my body, I was always tired, and I was always, I don't know, it was such a different life. And now sometimes when I see people drinking at a party and they butt me, I'm just like, whoa, I'll feel good tomorrow. So,
but it's also kind of, you're watching people and they're getting tipsy and they're getting merry, and that's fine if it gets to that point. But when they get to that point where now they're becoming sloshed and they're losing control, and surly, or even rude, or, you know, defensive, you know, then it's like, what do you do in that situation? And I've done shows in the past of what does a host do when somebody gets too drunk, you know, because call them a cab, take away their keys first thing, right? But they can get very ornery as a drunk and make people feel very uncomfortable. And that's where other people need to step up and help, right? Because you're going to feel threatened for sure. But it's many people, especially alcoholics, don't know the limit because they, oh no, I'm fine, I can handle another one. And then it gets to the point, you're not handling anything anymore. You've gone.
There's no limit for an alcoholic.
Yeah, no. And it can be very difficult. So I think being upfront, if I'm uncomfortable, or even actually somebody coming to you and saying, okay, so-and-so's just drinking too much, what should I do? Dilute the drinks. I've always said to my kids, because when we get together, we may drink glass of water in between every drink, right? Always dilute it, glass of water in between. But it is difficult to be around people that get so drunk that they have no recollection. And I remember watching something else once where a mother would clear up after the husband's vomit and, tidy up after things he'd smashed and this and that. So the next day he would wake up and no ownership of anything. And until somebody said, don't clear anything up, just leave him where he lies, let him wake up to it and wake up to see what had happened. Because whether that's the wake-up call or it's the beginning of the wake-up call, there has to be some ownership and accountability of what is happening when you've lost control, right?
Yeah, and going back to your party, I think you're talking about two different roles here. There's a role of like, if you stop drinking and something is happening, remove yourself from the situation.
Yeah.
Don't try to, first of all, a party is not the place to do a lecture.
Right.
You can never do a lecture because I've seen people with issues, and I recognize it very fast now. And when someone is not ready to hear it, so now I'm just like, even when I see it, I say nothing, but I let the person know that I'm there.
Right.
And the second part is like, if you're the host and that is happening, the best loving thing that you can do is to remove that person.
Yes.
Yes, it's rude. Yes, this and that. First of all, they may not even remember, but second, it's like you are making them a favor by removing them, and also to all of your guests.
Yeah.
But I know it's not easy to deal with, but it is what it is.
Somebody in your party volunteering to take them home, putting them in a cab with just the house key, take away the car keys. There is a responsibility when you're hosting that you make sure that nobody gets behind that wheel. And, an alcoholic will think they can drive because they think they can do anything, but they're not being rational at that time whatsoever because the alcohol has taken over, right? And so how can you be rational? And so somebody does need to step in on that point, as you say, not the lecture, but most certainly the removing. And you've got the abusive drunk too, that starts letting out all the abuse. And you don't need the rest of your party people to put up with that either. So, and if they wake up the next day and go, wasn't I at your house? How come I'm here? If you've got a spare room, throw them in there. What happened to the party? Well, you weren't the life and soul of it, mate. But do you agree that kind of letting people know what they did when they were really, really drunk, instead of hiding it from them, is kind of planting the seed to kind of realizing maybe they have a problem?
Oh, yeah. Yes. But on the other end, I can say that when you're in the middle of your problem,
yes,
and you're not recognizing it, you will justify your actions.
Oh, yeah.
You will be like, yeah, I broke that vase, but should you really put that vase there?
Yeah.
It's like, there's always going to be an excuse and a reason, but so you won't hear an immediate solution. But yes, I would say, when you're being told like, you did that last night, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, the seed is there. If the denial might be there, the seed is being planted, hasn't it? Because they always say you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But if you leave it there long enough, it's going to realize it's thirsty.
That's good, actually. Yes. Yes. And no, 100%. But what I really think is that the person needs to themselves decide that they want to change something.
Yeah.
That's the only way. And unfortunately, there's some people that are alcoholics that will be their whole life. And you won't ever be able to do something for them. You just need to let them know you're there if they need something. And when someone decides to really, take on their own lives, please just listen to them and say like, good, I'll support you. Even if it's their 7th time, even if it's the 15th time that they're trying, at least they're doing it. So you have to believe in it every single time. And I'm not saying to invest all of yourself into someone. I'm saying to always say, good for you. I'm here if you need support.
Right. Yeah. I remember a young drug addict that I was interviewing, and she was a childhood friend of my daughter's, and brave for her to come along, because it had never really been exposed to some of her family. And she had gone to detox a few times. The moment she came out of detox, it was a fix. It was something she had to go to, right? And then she ended up on the street, and she became very, very close to selling her body for a fix. And then she knew, this is it. And she went into detox, and she called her mom and said, take me straight to rehab. Straight to rehab. Don't pass go, don't pick anything up, go straight to rehab. Because she said, when you come out of detox, if you don't go into rehab, then all you're going to do is just go back for that fix again. And, it can be said with the alcohol, right? You may go and get a certain amount of help, but you're going to go back into it, because have you learned how to cope with the situations that made you drink in the first place?
Exactly. There's the physical detox. And actually, if you would call a rehab center today and say, I have a drinking problem, they would tell you, keep drinking until you come in. Don't stop on your own, because that's actually better, healthier to do. In the sense that if you stop drinking really abruptly and you don't have any support, some people experience like seizures and physical, symptoms. But my point to this is that there's the physical detox. And honestly, that's the easy part.
Yes.
Not to discourage anyone, but that's something you can fight physically. Then you need to have support to cope. Or
the emotional detox.
If you don't have support, find yourself some. Like I found myself support in books and mentors and following people and setting myself like discipline of, but Brene Brown doesn't know that we're best friends. We spent a lot of time together. But she was my best friend for the longest time. And then I have Sebastian Maniscalco, who's a comedian, who was also my best friend, but really have a support circle. And as you're hearing now, they don't have to be right in your life.
Yeah. I mean, the beautiful thing about podcasts is, people can be open and honest and really share. There isn't an ad coming up. There isn't somebody saying cut. There isn't some sort of facade thing. It is peeling back the onions and being open and honest. And I think we've all got to that stage in our human development that we're tired of the facade and the glitter. We want the root cause of why we feel this way. What can we do about it? How can we change it? And when you hear other people like you're doing today, I was an alcoholic. This was my battle. This is what made me change. This is the process that I've been through. These are the tips that I'm sharing for somebody out there who maybe haven't even realized, maybe I drink too much, but that doesn't make me an alcoholic. Oh, hang on. She didn't hit the bottle first thing in the morning. It was the weekend and the evening, and she was functional and this and that. Maybe it is a time to start reflecting in. And as I said, don't ever underestimate the seed planting. Just because you say something, oh yes, I'm going to go and do it right now. No, the seeds, the watering of those seeds, and eventually it's going to grow to such a thing. Okay, all right, now I'm going to go do it.
That I'm coaching people in non-conventional way, because I don't send people to AA. It's more like a talk and self-development. But I have some people who approached me and they were like, Caroline, I think I have a drinking problem. Like, I really need your help. And I start, chatting with them, and they're not ready.
Right.
When they realize, and that's a super normal phase, and I went through it for years.
Yeah.
when you realize that you will have to say goodbye to your best friend, you will find any excuse under the sun to adjust, control yourself, take one, stop for 6 months, because if you do that, then you're good. Or stop for a full month, you know, January, no alcohol. You will see it on Facebook. That's just like little excuses that I say. Or, you know, I can go without it the whole week. You start putting yourself some excuses. That just means you're not ready. Because yes, you will have to say goodbye to your best friend, but you're going to make way more friends, you know, different friends. So, yeah.
Do you think it's also that for so many people, it's a suppression of memories or suppression of emotions? You know, it's a, you know, I find so many times in the shows that I do, the pain goes back to childhood. You know, the forgotten child, the child that was under duress, or the child that witnessed this and never been able to articulate it and just bury it, too scared to bring it up, and you know, always that little trauma that goes with them. And then, you know, the alcohol or the drugs or the whatever kind of becomes, as you say, the best friend. When you start unraveling with people and they start looking at really what the root cause is, it's always very, very different to what they think it is, isn't it? And the whole thing about life that we can't escape from, folks, I'm sorry, we can't escape from, is that we have to go through life, through the process of life, to understanding what our meaningful purpose is here, how to help and be of service to one another. And that means going through the struggles and the challenges, because from that we learn our strength, our courage, our abilities, and we really realize how awesome we really are and how we've been selling ourselves short. But we've got to be willing to face the anguish and the pain as well, because that's part of what building our strength is.
Yes, and that's one thing that I learned over the last years, is that the only way to get over something is to go through it.
Exactly.
If you don't go through it, you're always carrying it with you.
Yes.
So you have
and avoidance is futile. Right? Just like, you know, just as you are with you wherever you go,
yeah, exactly.
So is your problem if you don't deal with it.
Yeah, yes. And also the whole fact of, like, I know so many people, and quite often teenagers will start for that, to fit in.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, and that too, there's always a root of somewhere before, whether it was when you were a child or just a bit younger, before you felt really like out of place, you felt not good enough, you felt not wanted, you felt rejected. And sometimes just talking it through, like I said before, it doesn't have to be tremendous traumas,
right?
You know, but these things will sometimes, by talking it through, you're like, yeah, it's true, I'm doing this to fit in, and there's other ways to fit in.
Yeah. Oh, you know, maybe you don't need to fit in, but stand out.
Exactly. Well, as I said it, I wanted to correct myself, meaning like you will learn to just be yourself.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, you do fit in.
That was definitely me growing up, because I was definitely the weird one, you know, being a spiritual empath and all of that at that time. You know, some people were fascinated with what I did and who I was and what I saw. Other people just thought me a freak. But I was always just trying to fit in with all the normal people. And it's only later on, is that what's normal, right? You know, what is normal? And why did I bend myself into a pretzel to fit into that? Why did I feel so insecure being me? Because I wasn't like everybody else. But we're not meant to be like everybody else. We're meant to be beautifully, awesomely, flawsomely unique, right? That's what makes our instrument so special. So it's a hard lesson to learn, and one I wish that we could all learn a lot faster. And again, through you know, your sharing and everything else, for somebody out there, you may be just catching them at that time, that they don't have to have another 20 years or struggle, you know, before they can resolve that.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, don't ever compare your insides to someone's outside. And I tell that to my youngest one, is going on to 14, so she's my third teenager that I'm going through with.
Yes.
And
you do get through, honest.
I I always tell them, I quite often say I'm almost out of the woods, but I always tell my kids, like, don't worry. I'll show you pictures of where the popular girl is now, the one that was in my group. Right. And, you know, we all have our issues.
Yes.
And for me, when I came out, that's what I realized. Because I put it out there, everyone started telling me their truth.
Yes.
And I just realized that, you know, whether you're a judge, police, a singer, a celebrity, rich, poor, we all have our things that we're dealing with, and we all have a little child in us, and we all have our insecurities. So stop looking at someone being like, oh man, she really has it together. Of course she has it together. You're probably seeing her on the street or on social media or whatever. You don't see her in her intimate place with her. So don't compare what you feel with what is not really revealed.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't like comparison, and I don't like competing. Leave competing to the sports. If you're competing with someone, somebody's always going to get let down. And if you're comparing, it means you're not honoring yourself. Right. And this is also something that society has demanded us. We've got to look like this, you know, the Kardashian bum, this person's tits, this person's that, and it's like we're only popular. And look at the popularity. It's 5 minutes, and you've had all that plastic surgery to fit in, and now somebody else's mode has come up, you know, and it's like you're chasing an illusion, you know, and it's get to know who you are from the inside out, and you'll realize that you're a pretty great person with so many wonderful things to share that you've been denying yourself and other people around you because you've been trying to become a droid like everyone else, right? Yeah. No, be unique.
Yes, and when I really think about it, you know what, the hardest thing for me that was to define, and that I'm still defining at 47, is what's my purpose?
Yeah.
And I wish that we would start working in school with little ones, because of course your purpose will change with time.
Yes.
You know? But to know you have a purpose and to know your purpose is so crucial. And, you know, I challenge everyone, like right now, take a piece of paper and write your purpose. And we don't all have it figured out. A lot of us don't have it figured out. And when you don't know why you're here, it's hard to feel good being there, because you don't really know. You're just going through life. So,
and a lot of people go, I don't know what my purpose is. Okay, but what's your passion? Because passion and service equals purpose.
But see, these are all little things that you can talk with someone, or like you said, there's so many podcasts on this subject. There's so many books. So yes, it's work and effort.
Get integrative. Yeah. Yes. You know, it's not waiting for someone to come and fix you. It's somebody who has got the skills and the tools to guide you into becoming the whole person you're meant to be. Without the crutches, without, you know, the dependencies, you know, with the self-confidence, with stepping into your own beautiful, meaningful purpose. And nobody can walk your journey for you. They can walk alongside you now and again. They can certainly give you the skills and the tools to put in your backpack. They can cheer you along. They can pick you up. But it's your journey. You've got to walk it, which means you've got to participate in it. And so many people are looking for the downloadable app of the quick fix. And no, the lifelong journey from the moment you're born to the moment you die is about your purpose, your service to yourself and to everyone else, your contribution. Right. So there is not, oh, I've got it. Okay, next. No.
Yeah.
It's another chapter unfolding.
Yes. Well, that is a whole other discussion, but we're in a very instant society. And unfortunately, that's what I'm thinking that my kids will struggle with the most. Yeah. Is to teach them that things take time.
Yes.
You know, because they've had in their generation like the instant celebrity that from one day to the other, one video, boom, TikTok, they got like super popular and this and that. So they are really into the instant generation thinking. But I do believe that, you know, it's all going to turn around.
Well, what they get the feeling of is emptiness because nothing's fulfilling, because the real fulfillment is participation, is being, engrossed in something that is meaningful, doing something that ignites your heart and your passion. I've got a lovely hummingbird right out my window here right now, which is a treat. Is that really being connected, communicative, compassionate, and sharing, and collaboration. And when you do that, this is why everybody craves a tribe. We love being a part of something because we can share, we can boost each other up, we can learn from each other, we're integrative with each other. Everything else that the social medias are giving you on the surface is just surface, and it's not satisfying. So hopefully it will turn them in to go, okay, this is too shallow. I'm looking for more depth in life, and set them on that journey.
We're working on that.
And, as more and more things become more and more instant, that's going to be the challenge of your children's generation. Mine are all in their 30s. So, it is the challenge of this generation right now, of to find meaning of life when everything is just so instant and frivolous that's put in front of them. But we're all given a journey, aren't we? We're all given a path, and it's how we walk it, right? And
exactly.
You've gone to being highly productive, highly revered, to registering you're an alcoholic, doing something about it, getting your life back, and then completely redirecting onto a new path, a double path, one that you have with Deborah, with the media business, and the other path of helping other people go through their struggles of who they are, why they are, and what they're here to do. So had you not gone through that, you wouldn't be on this path today.
You're absolutely right. I was in marketing and I was in sales, and I was really good at what I was doing. But see, even as I was doing it, I had contradicting values. Like I worked for one of the biggest brewery. So working on the marketing for that and everything, like I had an amazing salary and this and that and that, but it was really conflicting with the fact that my kids were young, and I would have to tell them eventually don't drink, but then I was always bringing free booze home. And I would try to find the best marketing strategy for people to not just buy one but to buy two. And as I was doing that, I was just like, I should be opening a rehab center. Because when I was working, like here anyway, you're not allowed to buy alcohol before 11 in the morning in depeners, well, in corner stores. I don't know if it's still like that, but back then it was. And there was literally people lined up to wait. And I was just like, ow, that's how they start their day. And then I'm there trying to find the best strategy so they buy even more.
Well, you could take that marketing and turn it around. And you can have of how not to buy it, because that one beer that you think is going to pick your day up and then show them at the end of the day has just flattened you, right? A whole different advertising ploy of why not to drink.
I was a single mom. I could not do that. I needed my salary and I needed to keep my job. But yes, no, I changed job eventually. But that's the thing too. It's like, I was just referring to what you were saying, like everything that I did really brought me to where I am now. And if you would have asked me that when I was 20, I would have said, no, it's not where I'm going to be, but you have to trust the journey.
And you feel so much more fulfilled today, right? Because of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I go to bed with a peaceful consciousness.
That is a gift in itself. Knowing that you've put your best foot forward, doing something that's meaningful, that you love, and that you can put your head on your pillow knowing that was a good day. And it doesn't have to have massive big bell outcomes. It's just to know that, you put your best foot forward. You did your best that day. I like the Don Rose 4 agreements. Don't take things personally, right? If somebody attacks you, it's their issue. Don't take it on. Don't, I was, of course, when I come up with this, I should have it printed out because I always go dyslexic on it, but don't assume. And then with that, ask. You're busy assuming, which goes to judgment before you even know what the problem is. Ask. Do your very best based on whether your consciousness of whether your best is that, right? What's the other one? It's the fourth one. I'm going completely blank.
Well, now that you're asking me, I'm drawing a blank and I have the book.
Oh, speak your word with integrity. All right. Always speak your word with integrity. And, you know, it's own your words, own your intent. And, you know, as you say, in the advertising, the words were all about numbers, sales. And it wasn't your words of intent. You know, you couldn't honor those words. And now with the work that you're doing, you can speak your words with the right intention. So therefore you can sleep with a clear conscience, right?
Yes. And I just want to say, like, going back to the initial subject, when we say do your best every day, you know, there's some days that your best will be that you are able to get out of bed, go on the couch and not drink.
Right.
And
yes.
that is, you know, fabulous. Go to bed that night knowing that you took care of yourself and you did the right thing. Giving your best is not always like achieving something. Well, it is achieving something every day. Getting up out of bed is an achievement.
Yes.
You know, but define what your achievement is. And don't be gentle on yourself. Be compassionate to yourself.
Yeah.
Think about when you talk to yourself, think about if you were talking to me. Like at the end of the day, would you tell me like, oh my gosh, Caroline, you're such an idiot. Like, seriously, you could do way better than that. You would not say that to your neighbor, to someone on the street, or to your kids. So don't say it to yourself either.
Right.
You know?
Right. Be supportive.
Yeah, be supportive and talk to yourself. That's a big thing that I learned. Talk to yourself as if you were talking to a 4-year-old. Because there's things you don't say to a kid. You know?
Yes. Yes.
You say nice. So just talk to yourself this way. And when we say give your best, you know, everyone's best is different, and honor what yours is for that day. Because the one thing that I did keep from AA, it's really one day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a struggle. Just because it's one day at a time doesn't mean you're struggling every day. It means you're actually living in the present.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say you live the moment, and I haven't, it's a thing that I started doing that I appreciate so much, because you live in the moment, you live what there is to live after. And after, you don't have anxiety about what happened or what's coming, because you're in the other moment. So it's just, everything is more peaceful.
Yes.
And I'm not saying I have a perfect life. We all have issues, but I really want to always mention that now. I'm going to put it as a disclaimer. It's just, you approach, you know, problems differently.
Yes. You're more equipped. You're more equipped to deal with them rather than escape from them. Right.
Absolutely.
And when we can face them and we can deal with them, again, it goes back to, I didn't know I had that ability. Right. Kudos. Something else I can add on to my little resume here. I can do that. And you feel good about yourself. And as you said, you know, like, this could have flattened me, this emotion, or this what happened, but I decided to go in and honor my own psyche, my own love of self. And I have come out the other end, and that isn't going to have an effect on me now.
That's big.
Yeah. So basically you're saying, for the tips for the season, for any time, is know your red flags.
Yes, but I would put a, I don't even know the word. I would put a disclaimer on this one, because we don't always know what our red flags are. But
honor your feeling if you feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
You don't have to justify it, validate it, or apologize for it. You just, I feel uncomfortable. And if you feel you can't get through that uncomfortability, leave.
Yeah. I even went to parties that I told the person, if I disappear, don't take it personal.
Yeah.
We'll talk tomorrow.
Right. Yes. And that's a good thing one to do, is to let your host know, you know, I am recovering. This is an issue. If you do see me go, please do not be offended. This is no offense on you. It's just my limit. Right. And that lets them off the hook feeling, oh, what have I done to offend them?
Exactly.
Right. And it's okay. She's honoring herself. Right. So that's a good one. What other tips would you offer for people, right now, especially kind of going home to the family? Because I think friends sometimes are more honorable than family, as family keep push. What tips would you give to facing the family at Christmas who are not accepting this journey, or just, as you said, drama queen or this or that, put all sorts of labels on you?
Yeah, well, you're not there to convince them.
Right.
So don't even try.
Mm-hmm.
Really, my honest tip was I was just tuning out what they were saying at some point. I was just like, I'm not going to convince them. They are who they are. They love me. I love them. We're not agreeing on this subject because they don't understand.
Right.
And it's not malicious or whatever. They
Yep.
just don't understand. And like I was saying at the beginning, you don't understand when you're not in the situation
Yes.
living it. So just put them off the hook in your head. It's like they don't understand. You're not there to convince them, especially not at a party or gatherings.
Right. Mm.
It's not the place to open discussions. You're not going to win it. And you're just going to, I think you're going to end up feeling more hurt. If you want to talk to your family, do it one-on-one when they're not together and when it's not a gathering situation.
Right. I like to add to that actually is rechannel the conversation. Redirect the conversation to something that they love to talk about. Right. And you've kind of defused that situation. You've redirected it. It's now in a harmless arena. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's a good one as well.
And you're the most important person in your life.
Yes.
When it doesn't work for you, you don't have to justify it to anyone, not even to yourself. It doesn't work, leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Family or not. Right.
Yeah. And have your exit strategy, like have your person that you can call. You need to have someone you call. And if you don't have anyone, well, there are those AA meetings.
Yeah.
I remember visiting Australia and having a bad day, and I found a meeting there. Mm-hmm. And you know what? For that moment that I was there, I went to a few meetings in my life. There's another time I was driving in front of the liquor store, and for some reason, I was like 3 years in. For some reason, I got so frustrated that I couldn't stop and go buy a bottle of wine, and I just started crying. I just Googled where was the closest meeting, and there was one happening. Mm. I walked in there in tears, and I knew no one, and they all accepted me, and they just showed me a chair, and I just sat there. And when the meeting was done, there's a guy who looked at me and he's like, do you need to talk? Are you okay? That's it. So find someone that will listen to you.
Yes. The other thing is you've got the people that you admire that speak to you, your best friends, right? Freddie Browns and all of those, is listen to the podcast. Maybe you need to listen to somebody who inspires you. Maybe, they're not even in the same boat, but they're doing something that uplifts you. Again, redirection into a more positive energy. And I know, because I suffer from depression and anxiety, I have to redirect myself into something I know that's going to consume my psyche so that I don't get caught up in that anxiety and depression, because then it takes on a life of its own and it gets uncontrollable. So listening to some uplifting stuff, if you can't find the AA, if you can't find somebody to talk to, listen to someone that that you admire, right? So there's always solutions, isn't it? Go and do something really nice for yourself.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Redirection. Yeah. That's the word.
Yes, because we all get thoughts, right? We all get those little challenges. I just don't want to be here. Or I feel threatened, really, because that's what it is. So, how do I get out of this? And you need someone, and sometimes you just don't know who to go to talk. Will they understand? It may sound frivolous to them. What's your beef? And it's like, you can't even articulate how you feel. You're just feeling. So if you haven't got the people, or you haven't got the AA, put on some music and dance, or listen to somebody that uplifts you. Watch a funny movie. You know, go and do something, get your hair done or whatever, you know, it's something to redirect, right? Because that's your well-beingness that's going to help you get back on track, and never ever sell yourself short on that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And don't ever wonder what will people think if I leave.
Oh,
That's
that's
none
a
of
big
your
one.
business.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, you know, as you said, when you went to the rehab, the judge, the cardiologist, the everything else, everybody go, and it goes back to Don Rose, don't assume, ask. If they're not willing to be engaged and like, oh, why are you leaving? Just out of curiosity, and you go, look, I'm an alcoholic. This has got too far for me. And then if that person can't respect that, they don't understand. But you may find other people go, I understand. I understand. I have those struggles and everything. Is the big word I would also say, don't apologize.
No, and I don't want to contradict you on that, but you can also leave without giving any reason.
Yeah.
Just being like, I'm not well, I need to leave.
Yeah. I think sometimes there are those people there that have those antennas up though, and they just may be the people for you to talk to. And I think you can gauge that. You know if there's somebody there or not, but it's honor yourself and your own boundaries. And whether you're dealing with alcoholism or anything else, I think honoring your own boundaries is something that we need to do across the board, isn't it?
Absolutely. In everything.
In everything.
It's just in life in general, whether you have issues or not, which it's impossible that you don't have any, but always honor yourself.
And we talk about being limitless. We can do anything, and we can, but we still have limitations in certain areas of our lives. And we need to know what those limitations are and know that we can't push those limitations beyond what they can cope with. And we can be limitless in other areas of our lives. So it doesn't have to be limitless in every area.
Yeah. So, I interviewed Dave Clark, who's he was the only baseball player, a pitcher who played on crutches. And then he became a super, well-renowned coach. And I was asking him, what do you think is different about your coaching? And when he said that, I have learned something amazing that day. He's like, that often when we coach people, and I will talk sports here, I will keep it at sports, you'll take a weakness that the person has, and you will try to improve that weakness. He's like, me, I do completely the opposite. I look at what strength they have.
Yes.
And I improve those strengths.
Yes.
He's like, and he's doing that because he said, like, I was on crutches. There was no way I could run faster to first base. So no matter how much I would have practiced that, no matter how many hours I would have put, I would have never been the fastest.
Right.
But he's like, I had an amazing pitch, and he became one of the best pitcher in history. So when he said that, I was just like, this is brilliant. Yeah. Because quite often we look at our weaknesses and we want to make everything work. So we work on our weaknesses. Forget that. You will always have weaknesses. Focus on your strength and make them even stronger.
Yeah, and this goes back to the other show that we did when we were talking about, media and social media and everything to promote your business, is that in your team, know everybody's strength, right? Don't expect everybody to do it all. This person's great at this person's great at that. That's what you hand them. This is their forte. All right. And they're going to make everything so much greater because everybody stepped into their greatness. Don't ask the person it's their weakness, they can't do it. No, push through. You can do it. You can't. No. Why waste the time? Why make them feel so self-conscious? Why put them on the spot? Why are we not looking at the gift of who they are and what they can do?
Exactly.
And I think ultimately, in any recovery, it's seeing the gift within you.
Pardon me? Sorry.
In every recovery.
Yes.
It's seeing the gift within you.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, my brain took a break for a second. crutch tell me. No, absolutely, absolutely. And just be you, like always be you. And you is perfect and it's okay.
Yes. Yes. Again, back to flawsomeness. Every single person has a flaw, but we can be awesome with it. We've all got a strength, step into it. We've all got the right to say no or enough. This is my boundary. This is my limitation. Do it without apology, do it courteously. And if we don't honor ourselves, our wholeness, mind, body, heart, spirit, and soul, which is already something that as a conductor, we're trying to keep in flow, in symphony. And if something's going to throw that music in a different direction, then no, you need to honor it and bring it back to that symphony that is you, because everybody needs to hear your music.
Absolutely.
So I know that you and Deborah have a whole program together and a podcast and everything else, which is wonderful. Tell us all about that, but also tell us about your program that you're doing with people who are helping them through their own transition.
Well, Deborah and I have a media company. So it's all based on, it's called True Media, because we're really about authenticity and truth, but it's really to help entrepreneurs. In any industry, entrepreneurs are, it's a whole other category. So you need a lot of support and self-discipline and, knowledge from different places. So I became an entrepreneur 10 years ago, and it's been my passion. So we're developing tools and everything to help people succeed better in their life. It's not just about sales. There's also personal development, And we have a podcast called The True Dat Show that it's basically all about lifepreneurship. So people who are living their life to the fullest. And you don't necessarily need to have a business to come on our podcast. You just need to be really passionate about something and, want to accomplish. You're a person who's accomplishing things. And that could be, as simple as being a mom. Not that being a mom is simple, but,
no.
Unfortunately, it's a very simple title, like mother. But they're the ones who have like 52 hats to wear and all of this. So we just love to hear about real people, their real journey, and how what brought them to success, but not just the successful part, also the real journey behind it, the real person who got there. And as for me coaching, right now, I don't even know exactly what's the name of my coaching, because it could be life coaching, recovery coaching, success coaching, but it's just really coaching people to deal with what they have in their life better. So it could be anything, I have worn a lot of different hats. And I think that no matter what you do in life, and no matter if you want to have success in your business, if you have success parenting, if you want to have success, doing a triathlon, there's always the basic that is you, because you are the base of all of that. And I like to talk to that base, because I feel like if you are comfortable with yourself, if you are at peace with yourself, if you know yourself and you get to really know your purpose and your why, then the rest, it's all strategies to put in place. And,
skills and tools, right? That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you have to have the core, and I just organically started that because it started with discussions, and then it turned into you need more support than just a discussion. And so it turned into coaching. I absolutely love it, but it's really about, finding your core, improving your core. Maybe a core coach? No, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't do anything against my core. If my core says no, I don't even argue, don't even ask why. My core says no, because my core is my truth. It is my compass, right? It is my clear conscience. And if it says no, I don't need to know why no, it's just no. So having people tune into their core is something that's going to save them a great deal of grief, and also help them make the right decisions that are going to help them propel forward.
Yeah, and for me, the thing that I struggled the most is not necessarily just tune into your core, is accepted.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's enough.
Yes. Don't compare. Right. Exactly. So the video or the podcast is True That Media. And
No, sorry, the podcast is The True That Show.
The True Dat Show. Okay, I've got a totally different banner here. I can change that around.
True That Media is the umbrella.
Okay. Okay. So True That Show, where I'm very honored to be a guest, which will be airing at the end of the month. It's a delight having both of you on as well together, which I ask people to go back and listen to that show. There's a lot of wonderful knowledge to be learned there. Thank you so much for sharing today. Now, how do people get hold of Caroline?
Well, I have a website there. It's very simple. It's carolineblanchard.com.
Can you spell the Blanchard for people who are just listening?
So Caroline with an I, and Blanchard is BLANCHARD.
So carolineblanchard.com. Go and check it out. Everything is there. Listen to the podcast that she did with Deborah. Deborah did one with me as well. So we've got all three of them out here. And there's a lot to be learned from it. A lot of inspiration, a lot of connection, a lot of redirection. I think the most important for people to know, anytime that you're going through a struggle, one of the feelings is that you're so alone in it. You feel so alone that nobody's going to understand. You don't know who to turn to. You don't want to burden anybody with it. But the more somebody like you talks out about it, this was me, this was my struggle, this is my struggle, this is what I do, the less people feel alone, and they know that there are other people that are going through it, and that you've destigmatized, you've shown the compassion, you've shown the understanding, you've shown the skills and the tools to get through it. And that feeling of being alone can be diminished. And that's one of the first steps forward, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember when I was a mom at first, I adore my kids. Like, they're my whole thing, my whole life, the reason why I breathe. But I remember my son was probably 4 and he did something, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I could strangle him. And just the fact of thinking that, I felt horrible. Like, for days, I felt horrible that I even had the thought, not that I would have done it,
right?
Just,
yeah, it's frustration. Everybody's been through it.
Just having a negative thought.
Yeah.
Against the person I love the most in the world. And it's probably a year after that I was at a gym, and there was a bunch of mom, and they started talking about their kids. And one said that, oh, this little, and I was just like, you thought about that too? And she was like, of course. I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt so horrible that one thought. But when you start hearing other people, you're like, I'm normal, yay.
Yes, exactly. This is a normal reaction, because it just is, complete frustration. And our kids do challenges. All of my gray hairs have got their name on it.
Yeah, I know, but before, people never talked about these things.
No, so they're the perfect delusional, what a parent is meant to be. And my daughter has an 8-month-old, and I've just had 4 days there, and he's trying to walk and climb everything. It is a full-time job. And, you say just a mom, head cook and bottle washer, sex goddess, driver, therapist, gymnast, you name it, economics, it's everything under that umbrella. So if people are coming out of just being a mom and trying to get back into the workforce, and you say you've got no skills, balderdash. You have many skills. It's just how to channel them into a new direction, right?
I would hire a mom anytime.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. The multiple skills that are there. Yeah. The compassion.
If your kid survived, you did.
Yes. Exactly. And so we learn from each other. And I think that's the bottom line of it. You are not alone. And I know that dealing with alcoholism, feeling I need that drink, that's my best friend, as you pointed out, that's going to resolve all my issues. That's going to comfort me. That's going to take my pain away. That's going to stop me dealing with anything I don't want to deal with. It's not your friend. It will become your enemy, and it will chew up your life. and it will spit you out. So when you are willing to look at it and go, you're no longer my friend, you do not have my goodwill at heart here, I need to put me above that need, then you can start taking that journey.
Yes, absolutely. And there's tons of resources out there, but the first step is just to, have this discussion with yourself.
Yes.
And it's worth it.
Mirror talk. It's very hard to pull the wool over your own eyes in the mirror. It really is. You're busy. Mouth is saying one thing and your eyes are going, really? And talking to yourself is perfectly okay, having those conversations, and very often talking with yourself about it before you have the courage to talk to someone else about it, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, whatever works for you, but you're not alone, folks. So carolineblanchard.com. If you're going through this, please reach out to her. The best teachers are those that have gone through it. They have the compassion, they have the understanding, they've learned the skills and the tools, and they're flexible enough to see your problem and how they can help you navigate through your life as well. So please reach out to Caroline, and don't forget to go back and listen to the other show there as well. Thank you so much, Caroline, for your beautiful, open honesty here today.
Well, thank you, Sarah. You're quite exceptional.
Thank you. So folks, please, it doesn't matter what that label is. Don't look to the negativity of it. Every single one of us walking on this earth has a challenge that we have to face, that we have to deal with. That is part of life. Finding that strength and that courage to face it, reaching out to other people to help you. It doesn't lessen you. Your vulnerability, even that weakness doesn't lessen you, because there's a strength inside of you waiting to come out. Please embrace it and let other people help you, like Caroline. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many, many shows here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com, and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.